On behalf of V.S Education Foundation, I, Anamika Srivastava, Principal of V.S International College, welcome Mr. Payam Shoghi to this online session of our college. Mr. Shoghi has been working with the school leaders and teachers and is helping them to acquire skills, abilities, attitudes necessary for involving students in stimulating, innovative, productive, and joyful classroom learning through in-service and pre-service training. He has also contributed in the fields of pedagogy and classroom management, and in school administration and leadership roles. He has been awarded with Man of Excellence Award for his outstanding achievements and contribution in the field of social service and education. At present, he is working as principal of Riverdale International Residential School, Pune. Welcome to this online session, Mr. Payam Shoghi, and we are looking forward to hear your views on New World Order. Welcome once again.
Honor. It's a privilege to be here today and addressing everybody. First of all, about this grand introduction that was given. Uh, my real introduction is that I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher who tries to do things a little bit differently, keeping in mind the challenges that children go through, teachers go through, try to find some solutions based on principles, very strong and appropriate principles. Apart from that, that's all I am, who has dedicated my life to the cause of education. I want to also mention here that I have been associated with Nepal for a long time. Between 2001 and 2007, I had the privilege of associating myself with a number of service and developmental agencies in Nepal, and I frequently travel there. And I've been always in admiration of the attitude of service, of the heart these friends in Nepal went about their service activities. This is a memory that I cherish to this day. So it's a great privilege again to be associated with Nepal, although it's online and through a screen, but nevertheless, Nepal has a very special place in my life and in my memory and in my experiences that I've had. I learned a lot from the friends in Nepal in the course of those 6 years that I spent there. So it's a privilege to be here today. The topic that we have today is about the New World Order. Now, we call it new, but actually the concept is not new. We have been hearing about New World Order again and again. If we go far back and we look at history, probably the first time that the concept of New World Order was propounded was towards the end of the First World War. So as the World War was coming to an end, the president of the United States at that time, Woodrow Wilson, started talking about a new world order. And now we need to arrange things differently and we need to manage our affairs differently. And the result of that was a League of Nations. So the idea was that once you have a League of Nations and the countries can come together and discuss their problems, there will never be any more conflict and a new world order will be in play. That didn't happen. Now we had the Second World War. Now towards the end of the Second World War, again, the talk of a new world order came about. So we had the United Nations this time, a much grander, a stronger committee of nations with all its agencies, world order. That was another time that we talked about that. But that wasn't the end of it again. We started fighting with each other. There were difficulties and there were all sorts of things. Then there was the end of the Cold War. You know, the tension between the then Soviet Union and the United States and the Cold War happening and all of that. So finally, the leaders of the nations concerned decided enough is enough. We don't really need to fight with each other all the time. And then again, everybody started talking about the New World Order. So there was this talk about a New World Order during the First World War, the Second World War, end of the Cold War. Then during the Gulf War, if you remember, there was the Gulf War happening in Iraq and all of that. Actually, somebody went and said, this is going to be the birth of a new world order. So there have been talks about all of that. More recently, we have had talked about world order also. You know, there was the BRICS nations. The BRICS nations came about and they created the New Development Bank. They created a bank and they said, this is going to be the dawn of a new world order. This is very recent. And of course, now with the COVID-19, the coronavirus, everybody is talking about a new world order, that everything is going to change after the coronavirus problem and situation eases out. Everything will change, so a new world order. So friends, we have been hearing about the new world order for a long, long time, which really implies a change in political thought. New World Order, the way we understand it, is all about change of political thought, change in balance of power. So a new country becomes powerful, and so things realign themselves on a new world order. And of course, about elements of a world government, the way that we manage ourselves globally. This is how, till now, New World Order has been understood. But here we have to now ask ourselves a question. All this talk about a New World Order, has it really worked? Has it been able to mitigate the problems that we have had so far? What are some of the problems that we have in the world today? For example, some of the major problems, there are many, but since we have less time, I will just mention the important ones. There is the dominance of the powerful. Anybody who has power will try to dominate and use that power, be it an individual, be it a community, be it a nation. At every level, this is a natural tendency that is a characteristic of the present world order. So domination, it's somehow we wish to dominate others. And it becomes a problem when countries try to dominate each other. The other characteristics of the present day order is mistrust. We don't trust each other. Countries don't trust each other. There's always this element of doubt in each other. So this has resulted in militarization. So countries, because they don't have friendly relations, or let's say they have this element of doubt in their relationship, they have to protect themselves, so they spend a lot of public money into armaments, into creating armies, maintaining armies, and all of that. And of course, they're also gathering intelligence and a lot of spy agencies and all of that. So this is the kind of world order that we are talking about as of now, based on lack of trust. Then, of course, there's corruption. When you look at how governments function, there's a lot of corruption there. There's lack of accountability, take or leave it thing. There's lack of transparency. So these are some of the elements of the present world order. I want to give you two major pointers to show how our present world order has miserably failed. One is about conflict. Now, Nepal is no stranger to conflict. We have had a history of conflicts. So has India and most countries. So conflict is one of the pointers. What do we have? We have external aggression. We have countries fighting wars with each other. Up to recently, we have had that. We have internal conflicts. We have civil wars going on as of now. We have it in Syria, in Yemen. We have different pockets in the world that are all the time in the grip of civil war. Then we have racial conflicts. People of different races are fighting with each other under the assumption that their race is superior than to the others. Then there is religious and communal conflicts. One religion fighting with another one, either within the same country or between two countries. That's happening. Then there's genocide, people trying to wipe out completely people of different and diverse races than their own. So that's happening. Insurgency and separatism is happening. Human rights violations happening. And of course, terrorism happening. So these are the characteristics. Just one pointer tells us that's enough. Look at the scenario of the conflicts happening in and around our own countries or in the whole world will tell us that our existing world order is failing us. It is not working. The other pointer that can tell us the same story is about our economic problems. Now, what are our economic problems globally? If you look at the whole world, you'll find that there are imbalances and inequalities of wealth. So one country has access to a lot of wealth, a lot of resources, and the opportunities for development, whereas some other countries do not have that. And there are some countries that are intentionally being kept that way. So again, domination of power. Then there is widespread power and hunger. We are talking about now, especially now, even if we don't talk about the coronavirus pandemic, this is a global issue of hunger, of poverty. In all these years, with the best of minds, with the best of agencies and the United Nations and what have you, we have not been able to pull out a majority of the population of the world out of the grip of chronic poverty. How can you explain that? And this is a manifestation of our present world order. Problems created by conflict. Now there's conflict happening, so in its wake come economic problems also. Problems created by disease, by inadequate health services, because countries are poor, they cannot afford it. So large population of the large percentage of the population are in the grip of health problems. Then problems arising out of environment, of climate change, of global warming. And this is affecting our economy as well. So, well, these are some of the manifestations of our present day world order. In spite of talking about it again and again, world leaders coming together and saying that, well, it's time to have a new world order, but nobody has been able to quite find the way. Now, somebody can come and ask, well, why should I bother? Why should I bother about that? All right, there may be conflict somewhere, there may be poverty somewhere, there may be some issues here and there, but I'm okay. My life goes on and I'm okay. So this, by the way, generally is the approach of most people. And it's unfortunate. And this, I think, is the reason why we have not been able to find answers to this question of a new world order that can really change things for the better. Now, before I go on, I wish to present before you a concept, an idea. And we have had this concept all along. This is the concept of nobility of man. You know, man has been created, man, woman, human being, have been created noble. And where do we know this? This comes from our religion. Religion tells us, for example, God tells us that I have created you in my own image. Now, God will never create a horrible thing. He has given us his own image. He has given us his own characteristics. So the nobility of humankind, for example, we have in the Upanishads, Aham Brahma Asmi. It's a beautiful, I love this little quote. Aham Brahma Asmi. Within me are all the capacities and all the potentialities of Brahma himself. Now, this is who we are as human beings. Now I ask you, is it noble, if we human beings are noble, is it noble for us to fight? For us to allow somebody to go hungry? Is it noble for us to allow somebody to suffer when we are happy and we are okay? So friends, I think the problem is here. It is at the level, you see, what should happen now is that this whole discussion and discourse and narrative about the new world order has to move from the government, from the leaders of the world to you and me. It has to become a discourse among the people. And we have to start this discourse. And I'm glad that the organizers of this talk have chosen this very important topic of the new world order. Friends, we are noble creatures. We are noble human beings. And we cannot be unaffected by whatever is happening around us. We have to be worried and we have to be concerned also. So this is something that we have to start thinking about. Let's talk about the future, the new world order. What is it going to look like? But I can put forward some of the principles that will go on to shape the new world order. By the way, we are talking about a new world order that will not have any of the problems that we have. The new world order will solve all the problems that I have mentioned right now, and they're going to be based on a few principles that I will mention now. One of the principles of the new world order is that it's going to be new. So nothing that we have today will work. Let's accept that. What we have been doing till now is that we have been trying to do patchwork of the letters. You know, countries come together, they have a new agreement. You have the G8 and you have the G9 and you have the World Trade Organization and you have this agreement and you have that agreement and all of that. But on the ground, little changes. So if we are talking about the new world order, it has to be new. Everything has to be new. Everything has to be reinvented. Now that's one of the principles that we have to follow. You know, there are countries that keep on amending their constitutions. There are new international organizations created, but again, on the ground, nothing works. So let's call a new world order just that, new. It has to be new. So it has to be recreated. That's one. The second thing is that till now we have only borrowed the ideas in running the affairs of society and the world from only one source of knowledge. We have only been looking at the physical world to draw inspiration as to how we should run our affairs. You know, there are two sources of knowledge in the world. One is, of course, science and all that it pertains to the physical world. The other source of knowledge is religion. Now, we all believe in religion, but for some reason, religious teachings and principles do not find application in our daily lives and in our policies. Now, that's a very strange and ironic situation that we have. So we have people, great minds, who are sitting and they are banking on a whole lot of research of economy and social applications and a lot. But there are simple principles that we find in our religions, which we read every day, they don't find application. So religion has become something just for me. In the privacy of my chambers, I can follow whatever I want. But the moment I come out, there is no application of religion. And we talk about secularism and all of that. Well, secularism is a great thing in that you don't force your beliefs on others. But there is a huge and a very potent source of knowledge that we are not using, and to our own detriment. So we have to look there as well. The principle of morality of human beings that I mentioned comes from religion. And it's a very simple thing that applies to educationists, it applies to administrators, it applies to everybody. If we just remember that we are noble human beings, we'll probably act differently. We'll do a lot differently. It's a very simple concept that comes from religion. So we have to go back and borrow from that source of knowledge as well, from religion. Then, friend, the third principle for the new world order is of unity. We have to learn to be united. Now, unity itself has many stages. Now, we talk about Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Vasudeva Kutumbakam, again, is from the Upanishad, it is from the Rig Veda, it is from religion. We talk about it. We talk about the whole world becoming one family, or the whole world being one family. But we haven't learned how to do that. So all we have to do is look at some of the principles that are there. We learn to apply them in our life. So unity is the other one. You cannot have a new world order based on mistrust, based on hate, based on differences, based on domination of power, based on selfishness. We cannot have that kind of, this is what we have now. And if we are happy with that, God bless us, let's go on. But if we want things to be differently, we have to learn to be united. We have to learn and find a means to come together as one. Different stages of unity. Of course, the first is the unity of bodies. We have to learn to be able to sit together in one room, in one hall, in one place where everybody came together. This we have learned. We have in the United Nations, leaders of different countries physically are present and they don't get at each other's throats and they learn to kind of sit and talk to each other. That's fine, but that's not enough. The second stage is unity of hearts. Friends, we have to start to learn to love each other. We have to learn to more than tolerate each other. Tolerance is one of the principles that we are told, not enough. We don't tolerate each other. We learn to love each other, regardless of who we are, regardless of our diverse backgrounds, regardless of how different we are from each other. But the unity of hearts is the next stage, and that's where we are struggling with today. We have to learn that. We have to find ways that we draw truly united and become as one. If we are able to do this, if we are able to have this unity of hearts, the rest becomes easy. Then we have a unity of vision. We can think about what is good for us, what is becoming of human beings, what kind of a future we would like to have for ourselves and for our children. A unity of vision, a unity of purpose, and then of course a unity of action. But right now, friends, we are struggling with unity of hearts. to be able to come together and honestly and sincerely and claim and say that we are truly one. So this is where we are. We need to find solutions to this because the new world order will have to be based on this. Then, friends, principle number 4, there are some dominating values that have to go into the shaping of the new world order. What are some of these values? The first values of justice and fairness. You know, wherever there is a conflict in the world, it is because of some injustice. When I feel that somebody has treated me unfairly and unjustly, and I don't have a voice and I don't have a say, what will I do? I will pick up a stone and break somebody's glass. I will engage in violence. I will protest. Wherever we have conflicts, it is because of some sort of injustice happening. Justice and fairness is one of the dominating values for the New World Order. Truthfulness and transparency is another one. To be truthful, to be transparent. Friends, are you aware of how much of falsehood is going around? Are you aware of this problem of fake news happening all around? It's happening a lot here in India. I don't know really about Nepal, that there are journalists, there are news channels that are blaring out fake news all the time and conditioning the minds of the people to believe that it is right, and they are being conditioned to hate people because of fake news. A new world order cannot be based on falsehood. It has to be based on truth, a universal truth that everybody agrees and accepts. Then, of course, the next value is of generosity, the joy of giving. I cannot demand everything for myself, and that's what's happening. Even, friend, we individuals, we have that tendency in us that whenever given an opportunity, we would want things for ourselves. What talk about nation? Generosity, to ability, the joy of giving to others has to be one of the dominating values of the New World Order. Compassion and kindness, of forgiveness. We have lost the art, we have lost the value of forgiveness. The moment something goes wrong, we are up in arms and we would like to take revenge and retaliate and all of that, whereas it takes some sort of forgiveness to let go and resolve the situation. And of course, humility, the ability to prefer others to one's own self, to be humble. Not be because I have a great power and a lot of wealth and a lot of power to want things and to kind of force myself on others. Humility. These are some of the values, and there are many more, that will go on to shape the New World Order. Principle number 5 is about the art of consultation. Friends, we cannot all the time impose our will on others. Again, dominating, because I have the power, because I am the greatest contributor to the United Nations, my will shall prevail. Well, it doesn't work that way. The New World Order will have to be through collective decision-making, through consultation, real consultation, where there are sharing of ideas and together we decide what is best for us, but based on the values that I mentioned earlier. Principle number 6 is about cooperation. Sadly, now cooperation appears to be very simple, but it is not as simple as we think, because we have been trained to compete. We are competitive individuals. Most people in the world have become competitive. We thrive on competition because when we were in school, we were taught to compete. Right from the playground to the examination hall, we have been forced to compete. So that's what we have become. We have become competitive individuals. But that's not how we are going to run a new world order. That's not how we are going to shape a new world order. The new world order will come through unity and through cooperation. We need to learn to cooperate with one another. Principle number 7 is about this feverish pursuit of materialism. Friends, anything that matters, all that matters for us is money, of power, of wealth. Education has become a tool for materialism. Success has been redefined as that. Relationships have been defined in terms of materialism. Where do you think this whole practice of dowry come from? Why does the girl have to give dowry? Relationships have been now defined in terms of materialism. This was not how it was supposed to be, but we have done that. So everything has become very materialistic, and this cannot go on into the shaping of the new world order. So friends, these are some of the principles that I think are important for us to think about. These principles, if applied, will in time usher in a new world order that we all see. Now, this talk would be incomplete if we did not have a plan of action. So I would like to spend the next 5 minutes to talk about some of the things that we can do. Or if we just leave it that, all right, there should be a new world order that solves the problems, we have really wasted our time. So I'm going to give you an agenda, a prescription of what I think we can all do. Let me mention something before that, that there are things that have to happen at two levels. One is at the individual level. There are things that you and I individually have to do, but there are also things that we have to do collectively. And there's a difference between the two. When we come into society, of course, society comprises of individuals, but the moment we come together, a number of people come together, the dynamics that are created in society are very powerful. They are much beyond the sum total of the individuals that constitute it. I'll give an example of a river. You know what is a river? A river flows. The river comprises of drops of water. Now, if you take one drop of water, it's composed of H2O. It's water. A very simple thing. Now, that drop of water, when it comes together, suddenly it acquires great potentialities, great power. It can move boulders. It can generate electricity. It can irrigate large swaths of land. It can do a lot of things. Now, we have to understand, friends, the moment we decide as a society we want to do something, things will change. And society, by the way, gives that safeguard for human action as well. There are so many things that individually I would like to do, but society will either permit it or not permit, and that's for the better. So we have to realize that now there are things that we should be doing, both individually and as society, and these are some of the things that I would like to mention. If we can get our things right, if we can get our act right and start doing these things, you will find that we will be in a position to shape government decisions. I always believe that if the people of India, I'll give you the example of India, if the people of India were to one day come and say that enough is enough, we do not want any more animosity with our neighboring country, Pakistan. Animosities between these two countries would end. But unfortunately, because we people like this and we hate our neighbors, and we have been taught to hate others, so therefore the government also is fine with that and they take that line of action. That's the power that we have. Governments will have to do, it's a democratic situation that we have, therefore they will listen to public opinion. Friends, we have a great responsibility. If we want a new world order, we have to do something about that. Now, what are some of the things that we can do? These are some of the suggestions that I have. You can think about them. So we have to be more open-minded. We have to be more searching in order for us to be freed from all our prejudices. This is something I believe we all should be doing, and we have to do it now. We need to become promoters of unity. We have to become supporters of unity. If the new world order is going to be based on unity, then we have to become the promoters of unity. So this is an agenda that you will have to find your own way with. Yeah, there's something that I cannot tell you what you should do. You will have to find your own way. But I will give you one mantra. This has helped me a lot. Maybe it will help you as well. I believe, and this is backed by religious principle, anything that we say or do that brings people closer and brings them in unity is good. You know, many times we ask questions, what is it? How do I know what is good and what is bad? Now, this is a very simple standard. This is a very simple standard of human behavior. Anything that I say, anything that you say that unites people, it's a good thing to say. Please go ahead and say. Anything that you do that brings people closer in amity and in unity and harmony is good. Go ahead and do it. But then, if there's anything that we say creates disunity, is wrong. Anything that we do that divides people is wrong. So this is something probably that you can employ to become a supporter and promoter of unity. The other thing, with an open mind, let us search. There's so much of knowledge around. Let us search and look for those set of principles, those set of laws, those set of values that will truly bring about unity in the world. It may be something somewhere that I wasn't even aware of. Let us look for it. And that can become the framework for our new world order. We need to practice some of the values that I mentioned of truthfulness, of justice and fairness, of generosity, of humility. All of that, they have to come within us. We cannot expect a new world order having all those values without we practicing them. So here's an agenda for action. We learn to become more generous. We learn to become more humble. We learn to become more truthful, and we learn to become more fair and just in our dealing. So these are some of the things that we can do. Let us learn to consult. If the future world order is going to be based on the principle of consultation, you and I need to consult. We need to very honestly and very humbly consult to find the truth. And we learn to do that. And of course, we need to learn to cooperate. We cannot go on competing with each other. We cannot continue to compete with the limited resources that are available to us, and we need to cooperate. So these are some of the things I believe we have to do. Finally, friends, there is one more thing that we have to do, that we are talking about. You know, the real answer to it are our children. The children of today are the real answer to the new world order of tomorrow. So we have to take special care with the education of these children. And when I say education, I don't mean bookish learning. That they are getting anyway. A teacher goes in the class, teaches the content, gives them an exam, gives them marks. Education is not. That's not it. These children will have to have all these values, all these principles that we talked about. They have to learn to cooperate. They have to have these values, and they have to have one more thing. These children have to become thinkers. Our children are not being trained in our schools to become thinkers. Our children will have to learn to adopt higher order thinking skills. These children have to offer solutions to the problems of tomorrow, but all of it within a moral framework. So friends, this is my, being from an educational background, I can clearly see that this is the solution. Now, there are two things that you can do. If you are from the field of education, like the VC college, and there are a lot of people are here who are from that background, then please do things differently so that our children can be intellectually and physically, socially, emotionally, and morally and spiritually sound. This is the criteria this is the agenda for the future world order. Our children, our schools and colleges cannot just be content with teaching portions and syllabus. There's much more to it. If you are from the educational field, please think about that. If you are not from the educational field, also there is something you can do. Please demand this from the schools and colleges. You should demand the school that, all right, where's your program of value education? Where's your program of cognitive skill development of children so that they become thinkers? That's the power of society. When we demand this, they will come about. And this becomes the platform for our future world order. So friends, these were some ideas within the time that I had, that I believe that there are things that we can do today. If we go along these lines, God willing, and someday we will have a better system, a better order in the world, that we behave in the manner that human beings are supposed to behave. We do not hurt each other. We don't kill each other. We don't allow people to suffer, but we actually do things as human beings should. So I'm grateful for this opportunity for making this address, but I believe there is an agenda of action for everybody. I have mentioned things that I thought can be done, but there's a whole lot more that can be done. If you can develop this idea further, if you can think more about that, I'm sure you can come up with your own action plan. But please let us not leave this question of new world order to the government and the heads of these countries anymore. Now this is a matter that we have to take up in our hands and carry it forward. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shoghi, for your idea, for your knowledge that you have shared with us. And there are questions coming up, and I think the session will be moderated by our coordinator, ma'am. So, coordinator, ma'am, Sonam Jalan, please go ahead. And there are some questions coming up. They want to hear it from Mr. Shoghi. So now the floor is open for question and answer.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, Payam sir, for your intellectual ideas. Now we have some questions coming up in our chat group. So first question is asked by Avinash. So I would like to request Avinash to ask his question.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, Mr. Shoghi. It is very insightful of you to describe us about the New World Order that I've been personally believing for quite a long time. So my question is, when we talk about New World Order, do you believe that the world should not constituent of different countries? Rather, it should be itself a country itself, a singular country, and the people should share similar beliefs or ideas, irrespective of their cultural backgrounds, values, or ethics. So that's more of my question.
I didn't quite get the question. Can you repeat the question, please?
Actually, what I mean is, I never believed in countries with boundaries, right? So there have been numerous wars throughout the history, and until this day as well, people are fighting for borders and issues like that. What I personally believe is there should not be any border, and the world itself should be a country. So I really want to hear your insight or thought about this, that the world should be a single country.
Well, I don't see a question there. It's an opinion that you have. I'm not going to argue with that because I, in all humility, accept that I don't know what the future world order will look like. But, it's pretty much like how neighbors live. Even if I have a boundary, because, well, I should know where I have to clean and I take responsibility for it. I have a boundary, but then I respect your boundary and we live happily together across that little boundary wall. But that's it. So there are some conditions in which we can coexist. You see, there is a question of sovereignty. It does not mean that nations will give up their sovereignty and they will be ruled by a super government and all of that. That's a possibility only if governments give up their sovereignty. They decide to give up their sovereignty. But if they don't, it does not mean that you will push boundaries and you will, but that's happening today. How the new world order will be, we don't know at this point in time, but sovereignty of nations certainly is to be respected.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now over to Shivram sir. Shivram sir is having a question.
First of all, I would like to thank the professor for your comprehensive presentation on the issue of global world order. And I also like to thank V.S family for organizing this type of discussion that helps for all of us to have a proper understanding about ongoing debate of world order on the one hand, and on the other, easing our circumstances that we have been locked inside our house due to this COVID-19. Professor, I have a slight question by taking some lines from your presentation that going back from the Second World War, following all the Cold War period, the world order has been changed. After the Cold War, the world has been changed in terms of how the conflict took in the field. For the same, American political scientist has mentioned about the classes of civilization. You rightly pointed the form of conflict may be religious, may be civilizational. This is on the one hand. Second is that what I wanna connect my question to you is that the present ongoing debate hope we all are familiar. The last 2 months, the foreign affair is there that focused on the future about the fate of the capitalism on the one, yes, and the debate of ideological debate in that is going on in a global level in international of arena. Could that lead to the change in world order on the one hand? And what would you say if the present day liberal world led by USA is trying to be away from its global responsibility, like taking example of WHO and this the ongoing pandemic COVID-19?
Shoghi sir, over to you.
I didn't get the last part. I think the internet went off. I didn't get the last part of the question. I think has lost connectivity. But from what I gathered, I think this whole question of capitalism and the United States playing its role in the affairs of the country, these are all part of the old order. Now, capitalism, for example, nobody knows if it is the best thing. Capitalism seems to be better than many other systems, but it has a lot of problems of its own. Now, the last recession that we had in 2008 was a creation of capitalism.
Yeah.
So we cannot be convinced and say any one system existing today is a solution, which is why I said a new world order has to be new. You have to redefine everything,
Yeah.
but based on moral values, on certain principles that I have mentioned.
Shivram sir, Ajur last part of the question once.
Okay, I missed because of the technical trouble. Thank you. I just want to connect the way present day COVID-19 pandemic has been in a massive, and America is one of the hardly hittest country in the world. And the way President Trump is trying to keep away from the global responsibility, just like taking the example that he was saying he was giving 30 days ultimatum to WHO. He has already withdrawn the payment that was supposed to give, and at the same time China is appreciating WHO, UN, or any Bretton Woods institutions. They were the liberal institutions. We generally believe that America is there at the lead. So, is this pandemic will be a landmark for this world? The change of world order is it changed by Cold War. It changed by the Second World War. We see such symptoms or such lines in this pandemic.
Well, what you're saying is correct. This whole tussle between the USA and the China over the COVID problem and the response to it is true. But again, this is a manifestation of the old world order. So we can go on, and this is just one problem. There are hundreds of other problems that we can sit and debate. But why waste our time over this? Why waste our time trying to dissect and try to find meaning in the things that are happening that we know are not proper, because our fundamental principles that guide the old order are wrong. There's greed, there's selfishness, there's materialism, there's mistrust, there's hate, there's disunity. They will not work. So I suggest let us start busying ourselves looking ahead and looking at solutions. Are there some of the things that we can do today that in time can bring? When somebody posted a question here, when will this new world order be achieved? Well, it'll be achieved the sooner you and I start doing something about it. There's no timeline to it, but if we can start doing something, and if our children can be trained properly, it'll happen fast. It can happen in 1 or 2, 3 generations.
Now we have another question from Balkrishna sir. Mr. Balkrishna.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you very much, Mr. Payam Shoghi, for this wonderful talk. My question is, the religion has been with the human society, with human lives for a long, long time. and science has been new to us. So how these two will work together for the new world order?
What two? Science and religion?
Yes.
Science and religion basically are not very different. The dichotomy between science and religion is of our creation. You see, science gives us the definitions, the meaning of things, and religion gives us the method and the environment within which things should happen. So they are not different at all. You see, if you remove, for example, if we remove religion from science, science becomes destructive. And that's what is happening today. Because there's nothing to guide the application of science. Science has become destructive today because religion has lost any influence over it. On the other hand, if science does not go with religion and religion does not accept scientific principles, then it becomes superstition. And anybody can come and say anything in the name of religion. But there has to be some logic. I should understand. Okay, my religion says this, so I understand why. Because based on scientific principles, I can define that, I can understand that. And it helps me believe it better. You see, we don't want blind imitators. We don't want blind worshippers. You have to do this. Religion says this, or you have to do that. Okay, I will do that, but it's not affecting my heart. It is not transforming me or my behavior or conduct. It is not giving me that spiritual inspiration and stimulus to want to do something for my mankind. Religion has to be that source of motivation, and science has to give us the tools for that. But the motivation to be able to step out and reach out has to come from religion. And I think that's where we have gone wrong, by not trying to fully understand the spiritual principles, but within the light of the logical and reason, the rationale offered by science.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, the next question, Anamika ma'am, our principal ma'am, Mrs. Anamika.
Okay. So you have been talking about the importance of religion in establishing an effective new world order. But where do you see the position of women? Because when we talk about religion, religion has got good aspect as well as very oppressive aspect as far as women's position or status is concerned. Whether it is Upanishad, Manusmriti, or you talk about any religious scripture, be it Hinduism, any religion you talk about, there are oppressive things or remarks about women. So when you see the establishment of New World Order, and when you're talking about importance of religion, where do you see the place of women? Because it has hardly changed. And if we talk about religion, do you think it will have any effect on the status of women as such?
It should, because personally, I believe that a lot of things that have been said about the status of women has been misinterpreted and misrepresented. I believe that there's the highest regard given to women in our religious scriptures. But for some reason, some of this has been misrepresented, misinterpreted. Think about it logically. You know, when I said that we have to learn to become promoters of unity, what does that mean? It means that I have to learn to see equality in all religions. I have to see equality in all races. I have to learn to see equality in all castes. I have to see equality in all classes, no poor and rich, and they're all equal. And I have to see equality in all languages. There are so many people who divide themselves based on language. My language is older, is better than yours, and we fight over that. And of course, we have to learn to see equality in gender. 50%, roughly 50% of the population of the world is women. The other 50% is men. Logically, and that's where science comes in, if we think that we can achieve a new world order without the participation of 50% of our human resources in any country or any region or the whole world, then we are fooling ourselves. I also mentioned we have to, with an open mind, search. We have to search for these answers. Is this it? Is this it? Or there are other principles, other teachings, other knowledge available that can truly uplift the position of women? I believe we can go no further unless that, And this does not imply only in the national or global level. It is right in our homes. Families have to learn to respect women and give them their rightful position. When I talked about consultation, it does not mean the men should sit together and consult and impose their decisions on the women of the home. This is not how the New World Order, this is how it is happening already. So the New World Order will be based on equality, on equity, on equal opportunities, and you really cannot take the women out of the equation. We'll be fooling ourselves if we do that. This is, I'm glad you brought it up, madam. I missed it in my talk. We have to learn to bring about gender equality in the real sense in our approach as we move towards a new world order. Otherwise, it's not happening.
Hope so. Thank you so much. But ironically, we are still fighting over teen talaq and issues like this till today. Thank you so much, Shoghi, for your information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. I'll go to the next question once. Bhaktaraj Ranjit sir was asking a question.
Thank you. So I am Bhaktaraj from Nepal. I have a small questions. So your talking is very inspiring. So my question is, the present political system, it is not only in Nepal and all over the world. The present political system drives everything. The political decision maker in everywhere. So how can we teach the principle of new world order to the head of the states or politicians?
Bhadraj, how are you? Pleasure to see you.
Fine.
Balkrishna also, pleasure to see you all, my old friends.
Thank you.
I think I mentioned that till now this whole discourse on new world order was top down. We had to wait for situations to change in the world, and then some leaders of states, some leaders of countries would come together and start talking about new world order. And this has happened for ages now, for decades now, and it has got us nowhere, and it's got us into deeper trouble. Not only have we got any closer to a new world order, but our problems have been compounded and it become more and more. So my suggestion, and I mentioned it in my talk, we have to start going bottom to up. We have to assume responsibility of creating first awareness and then doing a few things that we think can over time bring about the situation where the leaders of the state will start thinking differently, to create that popular opinion among the people that governments will shape themselves aligned with the pathway that will lead us to a future world order. Nothing that is happening today will answer these questions. So as I said, it's a new world order. Everything has to become new. But it has to be based on a new set of paradigm. It has to be based on a new set of conditions. And I think I mentioned some of them. There are many more I may have missed out, but that's the way to it. Please let us not waste our time trying to convince people on top. We have to start from bottom. We have to create the base, the mass that will be aligned with those principles, those values, and those inclinations. And that will in time create those kind of awarenesses that we seek. It's not going to be easy. It'll take a lot of time. It'll take a lot of effort, but then that's what we have to do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Karna.
Thank you, sir.
Amritendra Karna, sir, wants to ask some question.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Your class may help us in different parts of our life. You have told that realize world as unit of heart, unit of power, etc. And we have to teach our children or students about unity rather than competition. I think this is only happen when children will be taught by our action rather than our literature. So we have to teach or realize ourselves in the old order first. Then my question is, how can we teach only children by literature without by any action or our realization? Thank you, sir.
It depends. What do we mean by children? You know, we are talking about different age groups of children because they respond differently to adult behavior. Very young children, as soon as they become a little bit conscious, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, depending on your relationship with children, they will respond to you. So children love their parents, they will obey them, they will listen to them, they will do whatever they tell them. They love their teachers, they will listen to them without knowing why I am doing this, but it's out of relationship. But when children get older, they become adolescents, as we call them junior youth, 12 years, 13, 14, then they have developed the ability to think. Then you got to reason with them. Then you don't tell them, you should cooperate, you should not fight, you should do this, you should do that. It doesn't work. In fact, children will rebel and they will do just the opposite. So it depends on what our approach is with them. But you're very right. The children have to see those principles, those behaviors that you want them to follow and to imbibe to be modeled. So they have to look around. You know, I mentioned about forgiveness. Now we have lost the idea, even our children have lost the concept of what it means to forgive, because when they look around, they don't see anybody forgiving anybody else. So forgiveness, they know the word, but they don't know what it means because they have not seen it practiced. So our children are losing the concept of a lot of these values, truthfulness. When they see everybody's lying and everybody's cheating around them, they will lose the whole meaning of what it means to be truthful. So they have to do that. But you mentioned about the school. Now, there are certain pedagogies. There are some methods of teaching and learning that do this also. There's cooperative learning. Cooperative learning is a very powerful methodology of teaching. So if schools implement that, children learn to cooperate. Even as they learn, first of all, they will learn very well because there is mutual learning happening. Learning is happening in groups, in pairs, in triad. Also, they enjoy their learning. There's a lot of freedom given to children. They learn. You don't have to. Many teachers believe that if you employ cooperative learning later on, then you don't have enough time to finish. But it's wrong, because when you teach them once, they will remember forever. You don't have to go back and revise. You're actually saving time. So cooperative learning, children learn well. They learn also, they enjoy their learning. Also, they learn those values required for cooperation. They learn to be patient. They learn to respect the opinion of others. They become more humble. All of that. And these are the ingredients for the new world order. So it's not just this or that, it's everything. So if schools can do things differently, if they can adopt new methodologies, if they can adopt new pedagogies, parents have to be careful. When the doorbell rings, don't tell the child, tell the fellow I am not at home. There's no lying happening around here. So this is an ongoing thing. As long as we are aware that these are some of the things have to be done, then we find our own way of doing that.
Thank you so much, sir.
Bringing more gap between